Introducing Royal Caribbean's newest ship, Icon of the Seas, the ultimate family vacation. The ultimate 6 slides, 8 neighborhoods, 0 compromise vacation. The ultimate never done that, can't wait to do it vacation. The ultimate chillin' by a different pool every day of the week vacation. This is the Icon of vacations. Icon of the Seas, arriving in 2024. Book today. Come seek the Royal Caribbean. Ships Registry, Bahamas.
Hello, and welcome into the first ever Check My Oil, the MMA show on MTP, starring and hosted by me, just me, DK Sizzle. I'm the only one. I'm the only one here. The rest of the show, the rest of the group of Missing the Point are fucking Boy Scouts. They like to see sporting athletic men throw balls at each other, but I like that. Don't get me wrong, but I like to see them beat the shit out of each other also. So here we are with our first solo show, with our first MMA show. It's a wild experiment. I called it Check My Oil in reference to the move in wrestling where you put your finger up another guy's butt to give him a fright so you can get out of a grapple, because I find that hilarious. And welcome to the first show. So let's kick things off. We're obviously here to preview the July 4th weekend card from the UFC. It's stacked. I've had some people tell me it isn't stacked, that a lot of the fights are foregone conclusions, and the main card isn't super exciting. The main event isn't super exciting because Izzy's fighting a guy that he should definitely beat. But I'm here to pitch the card to you. I'm here to tell you all about why you should watch it, why you should buy it. And I don't even work for the UFC. I just want you to have a great time this coming Saturday, July 2nd. The prelims start at 5 p.m. Pacific. I go on Pacific. So that's 8, and then 7 o'clock is the main event. So that's 10 on the East Coast. Tune in. It's going to be a good one. Few things before we get into it. I would love to shout out friend of the show, Hillary Rose, who's also fighting on Saturday. She's fighting Cage Titans 54. And you can go on the Cage Titans website and watch the live stream. Watch our friend Hillary Rose go out there and put on a show like she's always want to do. Friend of the show. She was our first ever guest on MTP. So we always love to shout her out when we can. Hillary, good luck. Break a leg. Not yours. So yeah, definitely tune into that. It's before the meat of the UFC card. So you have time. Especially if you listen to this show and you're like, wow, this charming, effete gentleman hosting that MMA show just told us all great bets and predictions and all these awesome things that I took to watching the UFC card. So the least I could do is watch his friend Hillary also fight in a cage match. So, we're affiliated here on MTP, especially on Check My Oil. So this is the first primetime cage fight, MMA fight ever aired on primetime TV. It's on network television, the prelims, ABC. So the channel that aired the Brady Bunch is going to air broken orbital bones and broken noses and popped eyes and eye pokes and gouges and knees and elbows and people trying desperately to separate other people from their consciousness for blood sport and entertainment, which I just don't think there's anything better. I just watched Gladiator recently, and I have to say, closest thing we got to it. Closest there. Are we not entertained? Yes, we are. I have to say, I think the UFC, obviously they're the premier promotion in mixed martial arts, a sport I hold near and dear. I think the reason that they're so good is that they have great matchmaking. Their roster is easy to matchmake with because if they call you up, you're going, you want to go and be in the UFC, that's what you want to do. But they put great styles together. They put great narratives together. They put two fighters together in order to make great fights. And I think they're getting better and better at that as time goes on. I think they're getting more impressive with how they're able to make these barn burners. And with what they had available for this, what I would consider the Super Bowl of the UFC is July 4th weekend. They've always been the kings of July 4th weekend. If you go to Las Vegas right now, it's UFC everything. You know, it might as well be a Mike Tyson fight. Granted, the main event headliner isn't fighting the best, most well-known fighter of his career. But I think Jared Cannonier has things to bring to the table, which we'll obviously talk about at the end. I'm going to go through from the early prelims to the prelims to the main card. And I'm going to give you a few things. I'm going to give you my prediction based on the research I've done. I'm going to give you some smart bets to maybe put down, because I like to do a little wager on these cards here and there. It's volume betting for me, though. It's smart betting every fight. And sometimes smart betting is not betting. It's important to remember that. You don't need your little hit of dopamine just to throw money away on a stupid bet that was impossible to predict anyway. And you could get lucky or you could get fucked. So I'll tell you the stay away ones too. On that note, just as a little disclaimer, I'm not encouraging you to gamble. I don't think I don't think gambling is the worst thing in the world, but it is something you can get addicted to. And if you do have a gambling problem, please don't listen to these bets. Don't trail them. I'm by no means a betting expert. I win sometimes, I lose sometimes, but I have done the reading and I find that it helps. There's plenty of sources out there. If you have any kind of gambling addiction, begambleaware.org is a great one that people shout out all the time. I don't want you to hurt yourself. I want you to have fun. So we're going to go through every single fight. We're going to talk about some bets. We're going to talk about some odds, but that's not what we're here for. We're here to have fun. We're here to have fun. We're here to watch two people try to fucking kill each other. Men, women, it's got everything. You know, Bruce Buffer, it's got everything. So I'm looking forward to the card. It's always a fun day for me. The wife and I actually watch every single UFC card together. I'm talking all of them. Because we're, the clinical term for it actually was diagnosed as old as fuck. Going out on a Saturday night is the stuff of nightmares to us now, especially post-COVID. We got like too used to the couch here. So we just loved chucking on a fucking UFC card, you know, watching it, having a few glasses of wine, talking. It's honestly pure magic. We're even going to have a few people over this weekend, which is unusual for us because it's such a big card. And my wife's favorite fighter in the world, which I find a little insulting, and I'll tell you why in a second, is Israel Adesanya. She fucking loves Izzy because she is a massive geek, and so is he. And he shows the world that you can be a geek and also be a violent and a very effective violent man and the top of a sport and all these different things. So I think that's why a lot of people love Izzy. He's unashamedly himself. He loves what he loves, and I love him for that reason. My favorite fighter is Conor McGregor because I was born in Dublin, same place as Conor, which we have a Dublin man on this card, which we'll talk about. Early guesses as to who I think is going to win that fight. And again, you know, I'm not an expert. I'm swayed by many things, emotion, all these different things. I might cry during the Jim Miller, Donald Cerrone section of this card just on nostalgia. So, you know, a lot of this isn't based on fucking logic. So if Tail of My Bets doesn't work out for you, or if my predictions don't come true, like, you have only yourself to. But I've been doing pretty good recently. So we'll see how it goes. I will have to drink a little bit of water every now and again in order to keep these magical vocal cords moist. If you're one of those people that hates the word moist, you should get yourself a personality. Moving on. Let's start. Let's go with the prelims. I think a lot of times when, first of all, most people miss these. They're going to start before the prelims. I don't think you should miss these ones. These, you can't have multiple ones. These, I don't think you should miss these because there's actually some names. Some washed up, some not, some never was's, but that's the prelims for you. I think there's some cool fights on this undercard, and I think it's worth watching. Another thing the UFC does really well is it's got such a deep roster that you can recognize people that are fighting two cards underneath the main card, you know? So I think it's worth watching. And there isn't a ton of information out there on who to bet on these fights and who you think is going to win. So I've actually gone and watched these contenders fight each other and put together something of a prediction for this card. So, you know, it might be worth listening to. Who knows? Okay, who do we have first? Uriah Hall and Andre Muniz. I don't know. I guess we'll find out on Saturday. Your first inclination might be, I've heard of Uriah Hall, right? He's fought some big name fighters. He's a good fighter compared to, you or I. But I think he's on his way out. I think that he has little to no chance of mounting any kind of a title shot in the next few years. He's starting to age. He's taken some bad losses over the last 18 months. And he's even been beaten by guys that are, coming up later on this card. But I think in order to bet a fight like this, you got to bet your logic. You can't bet on the fact that you kind of know who Uriah Hall is. Uriah Hall is notoriously bad at defending grappling. And this guy, Andre Muniz, that he's fighting, is a really good submission artist. So styles make fights. It's a bad matchup for Uriah Hall. It's a terrible matchup. It's a matchup that makes me think that Dana White maybe said something once and he's like, let's just get this fucking guy out of here. Let's just have him catch his next couple of L's and we'll see him down the trail. He's going to get submitted. I think he's going to get submitted in the first round. I think it's a foregone conclusion. I think you can get plus 180 for a Muniz first round submission. That's upon looking on, Thursday at 5:30 Pacific. That's what it was at. Obviously odd shift. But I think that's good value. I think for the fact that it's difficult to predict methods of victory and it's usually a sucker's bet, unless you're betting on Francis Ngannou to knock somebody out in the first round, I think this is as close to a good value bet on a method of victory bet that you're going to get. So, I just rhymed there. You get a little Parappa the Rapper here on Check My Oil. I have to make myself laugh because if you think about it by concept, I am just a man in a room alone talking to himself. But not to knock down the whole fucking house of cards here. Yeah, Uriah Hall's definitely going to get submitted. I think it's going to happen in the first round. I think he's going to blitz him. I think he's going to take him down. I think he's going to fucking armbar him or Kimura him or one of those fancy jiu-jitsu moves. And he's going to tap and it's going to be it. And I think it's going to be the start of the night. And I think it's going to be great. To be honest with you, I'm super excited. I'm probably going to bet the first round submission, and I think you should too if you feel so inclined. Don't gamble if you don't want to. We are going to move a little bit quicker through the pre-prelims. A, because there's sort of less information to go on. B, because the fighters aren't as good, so it's a little bit less interesting to talk about. But C, I want to be able to make sure to spend enough time on the big fights and what I think are the really exciting fights in the card. But I do want to do every fight because, all these guys are trying. They're out there doing camps and they're doing their best. And I want them to get the attention they deserve. Jessica I and Macy Barber. I also have a prediction for this. Who would have thought? Two things could happen here. I personally don't love betting on a women's fight where both of the fighters are not great, because sort of anything can happen, up to and including, things you don't expect, but not usually a random knockout because of the power level that we're dealing with here. I think a lot of the times if two bums are fighting each other in the male division, one guy might catch the other guy. So you can kind of put money on a guy with a little bit more power than someone else, right? I think with the Jessica I Macy Barber thing, I think it can go one of two ways. I think either Jessica I pieces up Macy Barber for the entirety of their fight, or what I think will definitely happen is Macy Barber drags her to the ground for 3 not very exciting rounds of control, tries for submissions. Jessica I probably doesn't get submitted, if I'm being honest, and Macy Barber wins by points. You don't get great value on this, to be quite honest with you. And it's like minus 115 or something along those lines for a Macy victory, like a straight money line Macy victory. I wouldn't. I would bet on Uriah Hall to get submitted in the first round, and then I would take a nice relaxing jaunt through the Jessica I Macy Barber fight. That's just probably what I'm going to do. You want to make that fight more exciting? Go for it. I would recommend betting on Macy Barber. I think she's going to have enough to take Jessica Eye down. But again, I think both of these ladies are not great. And in relative context to the rest of their divisions, not. I think they're great athletes. They've achieved great things by making it to the UFC even in the first place. But I just, in relative terms, I think they're going to cancel each other out a little bit. I don't think Jessica Eye is good enough to force her will, or to not get Macy Barber's will forced upon her. But then again, I don't know if Macy Barber's good enough to force her will on Jessica Eye. So, I don't know. Maybe play a game of FIFA during that one. All right. And I don't mean to come across misogynistic. This is not because they're women. It's because they suck. Okay. Brad Tavares and Dricus du Plessis. All right. This is a fun one, actually. This is basically does du Plessis knock out Tavares, or does Tavares kind of survive and counter, and kind of win the fight on points, right? So your bets here are basically either Brad Tavares wins by decision or du Plessis wins by knockout or TKO. They're usually grouped together anyway. And let's talk about why. So basically, I think du Plessis is not as good as people say. I think if you go on the internet right now and search for reputable MMA websites that tell you who will win this fight, a lot of people are going to tell you it's going to be du Plessis. I did watch a couple of his fights in preparation for this card, and I saw him get volume punched and then knocked out in a championship fight in his previous promotion. And I think there's a reason he's on the prelims. And I think Tavares is actually, he doesn't have a great chin. I will admit that. And I think that's why a lot of people are saying that du Plessis is going to catch him. But I actually do think that Tavares has enough to kind of work the fight, just work the fight, work the 3 wins. And work the 3 rounds, and just sort of get to the win. I'm going to bet Tavares by decision. I don't have the odds in front of me right now. Here, hold on. Let me pull it up here. You will go, plus 180 on that Munoz submission first round is actually lower than I thought. That's kind of weird. If you bet Brad Tavares to win, just to win, it's plus 124. If you bet him on decision, you might get better odds on that. That might not be a bad call. It'll be a stressful one though. You bet on the guy to survive a murderous left hook for 3 rounds. You're sitting there going Jesus Christ, don't get hit. I've been there. And frankly, I sometimes stay away from bets just on the merit of how stressful they're going to be to live through. Because I give a shit when I lose my bets. It fucking pisses me off. So I don't know how you feel about it. That's a personal choice. But for me, if I was going to bet Brad, I would bet Brad Tavares to win by decision. However, I can't, because I would just be stressed out that he was going to get knocked out for 3 rounds. So I'm not that confident, if you can't tell. But yeah, fuck it. At this point, I think you're just as likely to win. For me, it's even odds, and you'll probably get decent numbers on a method of victory. So if you wanted to take a bet on this, maybe I'd go method of victory. TKO, KO for du Plessis, because it's going to be more fun for you to watch. You're going to be there come on, man, catch him, and you'll have hope till the end. If he hasn't done it, up until the 3rd round, he might still have it. So a method of victory bet might not be bad here. I'll put it to you this way: if Tavares wins, he will win by decision. If du Plessis wins, he will win by knockout. I think that's definitely true. So whichever one you want to fall on, I would make that choice based on that information, because I really do think that's the case. That is what I'm confident in. And so is everybody else. I'm not the only one saying this. So then we have another girl fight. Yay. I really do think that the UFC, it's ironic that the UFC, run by Dana White, notorious Trump supporter and overall likely piece of shit, is kind of the most inclusive sport promotion, and therefore sport, he'll put women in headliners, but they won't even get Brittany Griner out of fucking Russia. And Dana White's fucking having ladies headline his cards, and doing that made one of his biggest superstars in Ronda Rousey, And if the woman is in any way attractive, all the creepy MMA fans are going to be all over it. So it's a win-win for him. It's just good marketing. But this is actually a good fight. And I actually think both of these ladies are good fighters at 135. Jessica Rose Clarke, who I like a lot because she has the same name as me, even though my name is Dave Clarke, even though she doesn't spell it right because there should be an E at the end. I think her name's cool. She's fighting Julia, I'm messing that up, Stoliarenko. That I didn't mess up. So I think a weird thing's going to happen on this fight, right? All the smart money, which is not why you're here. Okay. This is not the smart money house. This is the let's have fun house. Okay. I'm spending my money in order to increase my fun. I'm not out here to make money. So that's where I'm trying to get you. I think all the smart money says Jessica Rose Clarke wins, probably wins by decision, probably is just a better fighter, probably just wins by points and makes it happen. I think Stoliarenko's got one weapon, and so does everybody else, but I think the weapon's going to work. It's an armbar. And I think Jessica Rose Clarke has the potential to fall asleep and get fucking armbarred. I think she goes a little bit to sleep from time to time. I think she loses focus in the clinch. She loses focus in the grapple. And I think Stoliarenko's going to be able to sneak an armbar in there. I just do. It's another method of victory bet. And I think Stoliarenko by submission. I say go for it because it's the only way this fight is entertaining is if that happens, is if she locks in a cool submission. Otherwise, Jessica Rose Clarke is just going to point her out. She's, maybe she's learned her lesson, getting lazy in the clinch, maybe, but Stoliarenko isn't even that badly outmatched on the feet, to be quite honest with you. I watched her fight against Julia Avila and her fight against Alexis Davis, and I think both times she was fine. Honestly, she was fine. People slotting this as Jessica Rose Clarke is the technical striker, she's gonna grapple her better, she's gonna clinch her better. Maybe, but I think a fun bet is Stoliarenko in this one. I think she can sneak something in, and I think you're gonna get good value on those odds. Moving right along, we're into the prelims now, which is great because there's a really fun one in Brad Riddell versus Jalen Turner. This is a classic example of one guy's the better fighter and one guy is a fucking menace. And the menace is a menace because he's huge. He's got a big size advantage and he puts people's lights out. That would be Jalen Turner. Brad Riddell, he needs to set himself up to basically survive the first 5 minutes. Just get through the first round. And I think then he can move on to win the fight. It's another kind of points versus knockout matchup. And we're starting to see a theme here, right? I mean, I think this is why the UFC brass are so good at matchmaking, because that's a great potential fight for us as fans. I mean, we love that. We love what's on the table in a lot of these fights. So this is at 155. I think lightweight's a absolute shark tank right now. I mean, if you don't fight me, it's crazy how much talent is at 155. My guy Connor, I think, is still active. I can just feel MMA fans listening to this show being fucking likes Connor, fucking Khabib. It's dude, I don't give a shit. I'm here to have fun. And he's so much fun. You signed to fight me. It's a payday. You come. We're rich, baby. Connor made us rich. Break out the red panties. So, I mean, what's more fucking fun than that, But I digress. We'll get more into that in the next fight. So I actually think Jalen Turner is going to catch Brad Riddell. I think he's gonna catch him. I think method of victory, first round technical knockout. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm hoping if I'm right on these methods of victory, there's gonna be we're gonna be on fire through this Brad Riddell Jalen Turner fight. We're still cooking. So yeah, I think it's gonna be a really good fight. For the fans again. And I think Jalen Turner's size is going to pay out. I'm hoping it does. It's going to be great to see somebody get knocked out. So I think TKO, probably first round. But KO, but they usually come in a package deal. Oh, I'm so excited to talk about the next prelim fight. Let's just get right to it. I might have rushed Brad and Jalen a little bit just to get to this. Ian Gary, another Dublin man on the card. His favorite fighter is Conor McGregor. My favorite fighter is Conor McGregor. We should be friends. Ian Gary, we should be friends, man. Let's go to the pub. Let's go to Malahide. Let's go to the pub. That's where I'm from. I don't know what part of Dublin you're from. Probably somewhere cool. He's a Sanford MMA guy, which is interesting. I feel like maybe you would have thought SBG because he's a Dublin guy, but he's a Sanford MMA guy. A lot of great fighters come out of there. Iron Michael Chandler, Michael Johnson was there. Ian Gary's there. Vicente Luque's there, I think, who's beating everybody's ass. They've got a great roster. I'm probably forgetting fucking huge ones, but they've got a great roster. And I think the things that people have pointed out about Ian Gary's gaping flaws defensively more commonly than other things, they're just young fighter quirks. And I also think he hasn't really had to do it. He hasn't really had to be defensive because he's been fighting. He became the Cage Warriors champion, same path as Conor, but he was the welterweight Cage Warriors champion. Conor was obviously featherweight and lightweight, first time double champ in that promotion. Actually, was he the first time double champ in Cage Warriors? I don't know, but he was the fucking first time double champ in the UFC, that's for sure. Ian Gary, though, he is a lot of fun. He kind of squeaked it out his last fight against Winks. Squeaked it out by decision. He was just a little bit more technical. He does have holes in his game, for sure, but he's also strangely, for a guy who's with the technical striking that he has, he's more well-rounded in grappling than you believe. This will be a comfortable win. Another comfortable win for Ian. I think he's got a lot to prove after the last fight because I mean, some people, I think my wife included, had Winks win in that last fight on points. So he's got a lot to prove. He's a big prospect. He's 9-0. His nickname's The Future. The parallels to Conor McGregor I've already sort of talked about. He's Irish. He fights at 170, which obviously Conor has wanted to do. He's a big McGregor fan, and he kind of is one of the few people in the MMA community that actually sticks up for Conor. I think it's kind of fun and trendy to hate on him these days. You love a fall from grace, don't you? Don't you? Look at what you did to Britney Spears, you fuckers. Anyway, I don't think it's going to be a good fight for Gabe Green. I think that Ian Gary's going to win comfortably. I think he's going to hit him with some volume. I think TKO second round. Don't bet that, though. Just bet the straight win, Ian Gary, for sure. I think you can get decent odds, actually, probably, because his last fight was a bit of a squeaker. So I think Ian Gary, to be honest. I think that's pretty clear. Now, again, clearly fucking bias. Unabashed bias, because he's from Dublin and I want him to win every single fight. And I want the Irish to fucking take over the fight game over and over and over again. It's awesome. It's pure nationalism and I'm not ashamed of it. For an island of 6 million people, I think we do okay. Anyway, Ian Gary, and I think TKO. That's just me. That's what I'm going to be betting. And I'm going to be probably half in the bag by the time he gets up there, and I'm going to be shouting from the rafters. So let's move on to the nostalgia fights next. 155. Why they even made these guys do their cut to 155, I have no idea. They might as well just fought at 170. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Jim Miller and Donald Cerrone. This is a kind of a weird rescheduling. Joe Lozon was supposed to fight Cerrone. Shout out to Joe Lozon. Hillary, who I mentioned at the start of the show, trains at Lozon's. She's a big fan of his. And we are here too at MTP, but they kind of got cursed, that fight. Kept getting canceled. First, Cerrone backed out because he was sick or something. And then the second time they rescheduled it, Lozon backed out because something happened. And it's just too bad because it was like a perfect, kind of old head fight. Guys who've been around a long time in this in the fight game and in the UFC and kind of been through multiple eras and two fan favorites, and they really wanted to put it on. Dana White says he's never fucking booking it again. I don't blame him because it was just a big curse. It had a bit of a Tony and Khabib vibe to it, but he's fighting Jim Miller, which is kind of the same thing, which is great. Jim Miller's kind of having a resurgence. He's found a lot of power in his punches. He's winning good fights. But again, he's been around for a fucking million years. And I think it's going to be cool. It's just that whenever Cerrone gets hit now, anything touches him, his reaction is so bad. He's got a bad poker face. His eyes go. He starts to wobble. His chin is gone. His chin is gone. It's been gone. I think it's that kind of slick. The reason why Donald Cerrone was a fan favorite, if you're sort of new to the UFC game, which no shame in that. We're a very accepting community. Just don't go on Reddit or Twitter. But the cool thing about Cerrone used to be he was real slick with it. His combinations were really, really slick. He was super accurate. He was a really good kickboxer. He was tough. He was an interesting character. He even had kind of moments with Conor that helped Conor kind of rise up as that was happening. He called him out, and he's a likable guy. Anytime you see him in interviews, I think sometimes the spectacle gets a bit big for him. So the last place you should have put him was a Conor McGregor fight. But a lot of main events I've seen him in, he sort of wilts. He's better in a fight like this. And as much as Jim Miller is probably better at this point in their careers based on what they've done recently, I actually favor Cowboy in this one. I think it's a good place for him to be on the card. I know this is silly, but I know it's not fucking silly actually, because I think it's true. I really like his body language this week. I've watched like a lot of Cowboy Cerrone doing like pre-fight press in my life. And you can sort of tell when he's in his own head and when he does that thing where he like kind of punks himself in the locker room, or when that's coming down the pipe. I think I don't see that at all in this kind of iteration of him. That being said, I mean, I know why people are betting Jim Miller, because if Jim Miller touches him, I think he's going to go to pieces like he always does these days. You know, no offense to Cowboy. I mean, I love the guy, but that's just the straight up truth. But then again, he's going to pieces getting touched by Tony Ferguson, Conor McGregor, Justin Gaethje. These guys hit like fucking howitzers. I'm not saying Jim Miller hasn't found this power, and I'm not saying he can't do it, but I would wager that Justin Gaethje hits a lot fucking harder than Jim Miller, wouldn't you? I mean, that's only to be expected. So I think that the long and short of it is Cerrone's the underdog. So he's got good value. You know, there's a world in which he wins this fight because he's just slick. I think the way that their striking styles match up too. I think the way that Miller comes in kind of benefits Cerrone. And I think maybe he doesn't knock him out in the first round, which means Cerrone can get a little comfortable in there and actually like do some Donald Cerrone shit. I really think that can happen. So I think if he gets knocked unconscious, by the way, whatever he's been saying this week, he's retiring. I think if he gets knocked out, he's done. He's leaving the gloves in there. And that's probably for the best. But if he wins, oh, my boy, that is a different kettle of fish entirely. All right, let's move on to another fucking 40-year-old fighting somebody. Ruthless Robbie Lawler, another fan favorite, because he's put on some absolute stormers in his time in the UFC and in MMA in general. Ruthless Robbie Lawler, he's always in wars. If you ever want to, you can watch some amazing fights in the history of Robbie Lawler's career, and just going back and watching it, you watch some absolute fucking wars. You know, a lot of blood, a lot of guts, a lot of thunder. He's fighting a guy named Bryan Barberena, who he came in a little streaking. He was doing okay. He's one of those weird kind of out of shape guys who is like, you know, you put money on him and then you see him walk out and you're like, fuck. But in saying that, Robbie Lawler beat Nick Diaz in his last fight. And I think it was pretty universally agreed upon that Nick Diaz shouldn't have really been in there. That layoff was it for him. I think Robbie Lawler did a pretty good job against Ben Askren before he got kind of like choked out, but not really choked out, because even Herb Dean was like, oh, I fucked up. I shouldn't have stopped the fight. But everybody fucking killed him, you know? And he's 40. He's 40. And Bryan Barberena's 33, I think. So, it's even odds for me. I would take whatever you can get better odds on. I think Barberena is slightly better, but this is a pick 'em. I mean, they're both so... Bryan Barberena's never been as good as Ruthless Robbie Lawler was at his best, but Robbie Lawler is 40, and Barberena, he can get TKO'd for sure, but I don't think anyone's getting knocked out in this fight. I think it's going the distance. I think Barberena's going to win. I prefer if Robbie Lawler wins. I mean, who wouldn't? But if I'm trying to put my thinking man's cap on, I think it's Barberena. Okay, let's do it, guys. We're going into the big ones. Now, I don't even know if this is going to be, as of right now, I'm not sure if Sean O'Malley versus Pedro Munoz is even going to be, if it's going to be the feature prelim, which would make a lot of sense. You want a headliner, kind of a barn burner on the feature prelim, because as discussed, it's going to be on ABC before the pay-per-view, which is on, the pay-per-view. But the prelims are going to be on ABC. So Sugar Sean O'Malley is so exciting. He's got all the flair. He's the Gen Z Conor McGregor, right? He's got rainbow looking afro. He's funny. I personally like how he goes about his career and his business. He says, I'm not going to fight 50,000. I'm not going to get paid 50,000 to fight $1 million guys. I'm going to fight 50,000 guys, and I'm just going to stack up my record and practice and get better and better. And then when I fight tough guys, I'll get paid a shitload of money because my star will rise. I don't mind it. I really don't. The man's managing his brand. Not everybody has to go like, okay, let me beat the shit out of 3 tin cans and then go knock out fucking Jose Aldo. You know, I mean, it's everybody's different. I think that as far as this fight goes, if we can break that down, this whole like Sean O'Malley gets his leg eaten up thing, it happened once against an amazing leg kicker. Pedro Munoz is not going to be able to do that to Sean O'Malley. And Sean O'Malley is fun to watch, guys. Like, love him, hate him. He's too this, he's too that, and he's too much. He's fun. He's so fun. He's fun. He's fun to watch fight. Forget the hair. Forget the press conferences. Whatever. The outfits. Who gives a shit? He's fun to watch fight. He really is. He's a really good striker. He's super fast. He's got a bunch of weapons in his locker. I think he's going to pull them all out. I think he's going to knock this dude out, to be honest with you. I think TKO gets you plus 300. I take that all day. All day. I think a lot of people are betting on a win decision, which is probably swinging odds, and it could be, you know, I mean, Pedro Munoz is admittedly a step up in competition for O'Malley from the last few guys that he's fought. I think you struggle with leg kicks against one of the most powerful fighters in the division. I don't think that's Pedro Munoz. So I think O'Malley's gonna angle better. He's gonna be more accurate. He's longer. He's fucking longer than everybody in that division. I think it's gonna be the sugar show again. I mean, if we're here to have fun, who's betting Pedro Munoz? You know, who's coming in and going like, well, I want Pedro to win because he. It's like, why would you want Sean O'Malley to lose? Like, as a neutral fan, spectator, supporter, whatever you want to call yourself. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be a great show. I'm glad the Sugar Show's on this card. I like the fact that he has kind of become the perennial sort of headliner of the prelims. He's always on a pay-per-view now. Like he puts asses in seats, this kid. So I think it'll be fun. It'll be a fun watch. You know, he reminds me of the kid in school that was like 115 pounds, but you actually knew he could scrap. And like somebody would call him out and he'd be like, oh shit. So I think it's cool. I like him. I mean, as you know, I'm a McGregor fan. So if you're like one of those fucking Khabib heads being like, well, he always is trying to advance position. It's like, yeah, no, totally. The technical aspects of the sport are really interesting and cool. But I get to talk into this microphone and make fun of you by doing a fucking funny voice. So who really wins at the end of the day? Yeah, Sean O'Malley TKO plus 300 from DK Systems themselves. Sign off on it. Seal it. Deliver it. Post it to your granny. Okay, let's get into this fucking guy. Oh my God. Sean Strickland versus Alex Pereira. Sean Strickland's a massive piece of shit. Like, a massive piece of shit. Like, I'm not even talking like, you might have thought, going down the narrative here, where you're like, he just likes the fun guys. Like, he likes the big loudmouths, whatever. That's not the same thing. It's not the same thing. Sean Strickland is a massive asshole. The shit that comes out of his mouth, yeah, he could kick my ass. Of course he could kick my ass. But everything that comes out of his mouth is fucking vile. And he used to be a neo-Nazi. You wouldn't know that? Look that shit up. He used to be a fucking neo-Nazi. True. I'm sure he's renounced that lifestyle, but like, I wonder what he says with his friends over a few Bud Lights at a fucking barbecue. You know what I mean? I doubt he's walked the path of enlightenment if all the other shit that comes out of his mouth is any indication. He's one of these people, he's like, you know, he has a Twitter with a lot of followers and he fucking says shit on it. I'm surprised he can spell, to be 100% honest with you. Maybe as a ghostwriter, but I really don't like the guy if you can't figure that out. Also, for all of us, for you, for me, for my wife who loves Israel Adesanya, we want Alex Pereira to win because we want Izzy to get his redemption song against him, because Alex Pereira, very interestingly, is a guy who knocked Israel Adesanya unconscious. The man who's undefeated at middleweight in the UFC. Used to be a kickboxer, and so did Pereira. And they fought twice. I think the first fight, Izzy won. I watched it back in preparation for this show. I think he won on points. I think he kind of just had him. Like, I think it's wild that he didn't win it by decision, to be honest with you. I think they should be 1-1 coming into this rubber match. And you know what? Since we're going to talk about Max and Volk after this, they are fucking 1-1 after this. You can put the official records wherever you want. I watched the fight. He won the first fight. He just did. However, in the second fight, he got knocked unconscious badly. He got taken out on a stretcher because this Pereira guy, he's got a fucking mean left hook. And I would sell my firstborn to see him land that mean left hook on Sean. I'm a massive piece of shit, Strickland. I really would. I hate this guy so much. And also, the little inside track on this. everybody talking about how great Sean Strickland's boxing is. It's pretty fine. Meh. I was going to say pretty good, and then I thought about it for a second. I think he's got decent defense. I don't think that's going to do shit against this left hook. I think Alex Pereira is going to go up a level. And I think if you're Sean Strickland, let me put it to you this way. If you're Sean Strickland, if you're listening, sorry I called you a piece of shit. Not that sorry. You are. But if you're Sean Strickland and you're listening, do not try to kickbox this guy. He's going to kill you. Don't actually do try to kickbox it. Please try to kickbox him. He's going to die if he tries to get into a striking exchange with this dude. It's bananas to think that will go Sean Strickland's way. Defense, boxing, whatever. All these buzzwords they're going to throw out at you when you're listening to the preambles or reading articles or listening to other MMA shows. They're going to tell you his boxing has been actually quite impressive, and this is a title contention bout. Whoever wins this is probably going to fight Adesanya. I'm trying harder to pronounce his name right. They kind of drilled Adesanya into my head, but he keeps saying it's Adesanya, so I'm trying. Izzy. They're trying. This is whoever wins this is fighting Izzy, in my opinion, and in the opinion of most people who are paying attention. So if it's Sean Strickland, Izzy's going to fucking murder him. It's not even going to be close, but a little narrative. We love narrative around here, along with pageantry. I love pageantry of any kind. But yeah, it's got to be Pereira. We want it to be Pereira because that's Izzy's next fight after he, spoiler alert, retains this title. We'll get to that. But I think it would just be a victory for the good guys, for people with morality and some sort of common sense and love for their fellow man. It would be a victory for all of us if Sean Strickland got separated from his consciousness on Saturday night. But it would be a victory for us as fans too, because that is just a more fun fight. Pereira versus Adesanya 3, technically. It's just a more fun fight to watch. That's what I want. I want that in my life. So I really need Sean Strickland to not, because the only way he wins is if he just grapples him, because he's a better MMA guy. And he tries to survive and wins on points. And it's that's who Izzy deserves better than that, if you ask me. I think Pereira hopefully goes up a level, like I was saying. I think hopefully he's got some decent defense. I hope he doesn't get smothered. I hope he creates angles. I hope he sets up his shot and doesn't chase it. And I hope he knocks Sean Strickland out. I hope it with all my little heart. I really do. Strickland is a really good ground striker, so I'd be nervous if he gets Pereira onto the floor, but Pereira's really strong. I'm hoping it, but I'm also thinking that's what's going to happen. It's my hope and my thought, if that makes sense. I hope it does. I think it does. So yeah. So then obviously whatever happens with the Izzy fight, we'll talk about. But Strickland boxing, what's he gonna fucking do? What's he gonna do to Adesanya? He's not gonna do anything. So he'll do nothing. So that's kind of all I have to say about that fight. I will be vehemently cheering for Pereira in this fight because I think Sean Strickland is a massive piece of shit. All right. Max Holloway versus Alexander Volkanovski. Dose. Oh my. No, sorry, Trace. Oh my God. What am I saying dose for? The reason why is because I feel like the first two fights are so fucking weird. So they're fighting for the third time, obviously. That was a dumb mistake on my part. It doesn't mean I'm dumb. It means the edible just kicked in. So I guess it does mean I'm dumb. Max Holloway, I think, won the second fight. I think I'm one of those people. I think there's a lot of those people out there, namely anyone who watched the second fight. That's one of that. Anybody who's watched the second fight, I think thinks Max won. So going off that, we were talking about Pereira and Adesanya. I think they're 1-1, and forget what the stupid judges that happen to be there that night say. I think they're 1-1. I think Volk and Holloway are 1-1. I think this is the rubber match. And again, I think my little heart, my kind of fan, I love Max Holloway. How do you not? He's sort of my generation of MMA fighter too. I feel like he went on his run shortly after I got into mixed martial arts. Maybe a year later, he starts showing up fighting Conor McGregor, and they have a fun little fight. And then he goes on to beat a lot of motherfuckers at featherweight, and he was the champ for a while, and he beat Aldo, and those were great fights. And his personality's funny, seems like a nice guy. I do worry. A lot of people say this these days, but I also do worry about his brain damage. I think he has taken quite a lot of punishment, and I think there is a noticeable slowdown in his speech. And I worry about it. I truly do. I don't hate Volk. I like nothing him. He just like doesn't move the needle for me. I don't know what it is. Like as a champion, it's just like he just doesn't bring a lot to the table. Like personality wise, like I get that he's a good fighter, but even then, like his style is weird, and he's really super well rounded. He can like kind of do everything, and he's a good athlete. And you know, I should like him more than I do, but I just don't. Maybe it's because he fought Max. I don't know. I haven't really done like the kind of therapy deep dive on why I feel the way I feel about Alexander Volkanovski, but it's just a little upsetting that the judges blew the second fight, and this fight has a little bit less shine on it than it should. But if we just kind of do what I'm doing, which is just pretend that it's 1-on-1 because it is kind of, then I think that's a better way to kind of go about it. So I think this is the rubber match. And as far as a prediction goes, I mean, it's tough because I think Volk, they know each other so well at this point, you know, so it could get weird. It could be like a strange interaction where they kind of cancel each other out. But I'm hoping Max has gone and added something to his game where he can come in and just do something different and win the fight. Because like if everything went my way on this card, like seeing Sean Strickland get knocked unconscious, like seeing Max Holloway like lift the belt again, and I don't know what they do from there at featherweight, you know, like if you look at the guys that Volk's beaten and look at the guys that Max has beaten, I think Max has got a better kill list, personally, but it would be great to see. It really would. It's hard. It's a hard fight to predict though, right? Because if I'm being really honest and I'm being super logical, I predict that it's going to go the same way as the first two fights. It's going to be really tight. It's going to be close, and the judges are going to fucking score it. And they're probably going to, it's, you know, and as it should be, it's harder to take the belt away from the champion than it is to retain it. And that's fair enough. You know, you got to go take that belt from him. I get that. But then, I mean, that calls the first fight into question, doesn't it? It doesn't matter. It's a weird fight. It's a complicated fight. Do not bet on this fight. Do not bet on this fight. It's not possible for us to predict. The smartest money you can have is Volk wins again. That's the smartest money you can have. But like, you don't want to bet that, do you? I mean, you don't want to be that guy, do you? You don't want to be betting on cheering for Alexander Volkanovski. I mean, I get that he's in Izzy's school and they're all friends or whatever, but you got to go Max on this. You got to take it to the max. So yeah, I'm saying Holloway via decision. I'm hoping it's a clear decision because it's going to need to be if he's going to win that way. But Jesus. Don't bet on this fight. Don't go near this fight with your money. Whatever you do, I've just saved you money there. Whatever happens on fight night, I've saved you money there. So you're welcome in advance. Okay. Lastly, but certainly not leastly, we have the main event of the evening. Israel Adesanya undefeated at middleweight, although he says he doesn't like it when people say that because he doesn't mind that he went up to 205 and sort of miscalculated his weight and lost to Blachowicz. He doesn't mind. That's okay. People lose. He says it's not boxing. You know, you don't retain your perfect record in the sport unless you're like a little bit of a pussy and you kind of pick your fights and then you get out early. You know who I'm looking at. And then I think I respect that. You know, it's like, yeah, he dared to be great, didn't he? He dared to move up in weight classes and try to become a champ. There's only one other person that's done that legitimately. Cormier, you know, John Jones had his fucking number and he punked. So that's why Daniel got the second belt. Well, I guess it was the first belt, but that's why he had that belt. And because John Jones owned the light heavyweight division at that point, owned it. And he would probably, if he was at this build now, I'd say he'd beat Cormier again. He always did. So that's illegitimate. And there's not enough people to fight Amanda Nunes at both of those weight classes. So yeah, no shit. She won both. There's been one real champ. We all know who that is. It was very impressive to move up and beat a guy like Eddie Alvarez the way that he did. And it's really hard to do, is my point. It's super, super, super hard to do, especially the jump between 185 and 205. It's a big weight jump. That's big. And it looked every pound that much of a weight jump when Izzy fought Blachowicz. I mean, it just did. He miscalculated. He didn't put enough muscle on it. I think he thought he could just out kickbox the guy because Blachowicz he's a kickboxer. He's a really high level kickboxer. But Blachowicz was like, no, I'm not doing that. I got 20 pounds on you on fight night. I'm putting you down. It was a mistake to do what he did with his weight. He lost it. He lost the fight. I wouldn't want to see him go unless he could put a shitload of muscle mass on. I wouldn't want to see him go up to 205 now with what's his name with the ponytail up there now. He's scary. I wouldn't want to see that. It'd be cool. I mean, I'd buy the pay-per-view. Don't get me wrong. But just as an Izzy fan, I don't know. I don't know if I would love that. But I digress. He's fighting Jared Cannonier, who is, for all intents and purposes, a good fighter. It's just one of those situations where he's beaten everyone to the point of it being even a little embarrassing, Paulo Costa. Robert Whittaker, it's kind of a Max and Volk situation, except that he clearly won the first two. So it's like they were even reticent to put the third Max and Volk fight on because it was 2-0. But because there was enough controversy around it, the second one especially, they put it back on. The Izzy versus Cannonier fight, the Izzy versus Whittaker fights, he clearly wins. So there's kind of a camp, I think, saying like Robert Whittaker is like his best option, is the best guy to challenge him. We've read that book, we've seen that play, we've listened to that record already. It's good, but it's played. It's been played. It's been read. It's been found wanting. And I think that's the situation we're in with Cannonier coming in. I think he's a good fighter. I think Izzy sort of blessed him with the fight. I think he saw him put a few wins together and said, like, those are impressive wins. Give him the title shot because there isn't anybody else. I've beat the shit out of every other middleweight. He just has. So I think that's why you're getting a lesser kind of known guy. That being said, I mean, Cannonier is no slouch. He's a good fighter. His style is not going to work for him in this fight. He's a square shoulder, walk forward, be more powerful, put guys up against the cage type guy. He might get lucky. He might catch Izzy breaking off the cage and going on an angle. He might catch him with something. I'm not saying that won't happen, but there's no value to betting Israel Adesanya, and I cannot advise you to bet against him. You'll get great odds. You'll punch the number into the little, I want to put this amount of money on Jared Cannonier because the odds are so, and you're like, that's how much money I can win. And there's a reason for that. It's because it's not going to happen. To go further, it's not going to happen, but it's going to be the kind of victory that like Adesanya fans love. Like, I do think that people sort of criticize him for like how he's won in the past because he does guarantee his victories. Like, he just makes sure, like, he goes in and he goes like, all right, I can beat the fuck out of Paulo Costa. All right, I can knock out Robert Whittaker. Like, I've got the signs on him. Sometimes I will admit the fights, he just sort of wins them. He just kind of point fights guys and he wins them. I don't think that happens very often. I think he did it with Silva because he respected Silva. I don't think he wanted to go in there and like fucking destroy him. I think he was like, this is kind of an exhibition. Say what you will about that. I mean, if you spend the $75 or however much it is now, that's going to annoy you a little bit, I would imagine. But, I respect in the grand scheme of his career. He's not out there to try and get knocked unconscious for your entertainment. He's out there to try to win because that's what success is. I think he's going to beat Cannonier in a really entertaining way. Like, the way that he's longer than him, he's stronger than him, he's faster than him. I don't know, maybe he's not stronger than him. It's not going to matter. I think he's going to piece him up. Like, I think he's going to be scoring points. I think he's going to hit him with some flourishes. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think he's going to talk some shit while he's beating the fuck out of this poor bastard. He's kind of made that prediction too. Like, he said, like, I'm going to really beat this guy's ass. Like, I respect him. I even like him, but I'm going to beat the shit out of him. I think he knows he needs to put on a show after the last fight. And I think he was saying he's going to submit him. If you want to put some crazy money on put Izzy by a submission, because Izzy is the one who keeps saying he's going to do that. He's like, I might submit him. I might do it. I've been working on it. I mean, that's confidence. That's a lot of confidence right there. I wouldn't want to really see him roll around with Cannonier down there, to be honest with you. I want him to just come in and put on the Israel Adesanya show. I want him to be the champ again. And then hopefully, if the rest of the narratives work out, Sean Strickland loses in dramatic fashion, and it sets up a title bout for a real title contender in Alex Pereira. And I think, as much as like that main event might be a little bit of a foregone conclusion, I really do think it's going to be entertaining how he does it. So I recommend watching the fight for that reason. I think there's a ton of unanswered questions in Volk versus Holloway. So I think that's another great co-main event for you to watch. I think that puts asses in seats. I think Pereira and Strickland is going to be awesome. However it works out, I think it's a great fight, and you really could see like an honest to God Nazi get knocked out. So that's cool. Who doesn't want to see that? You can watch that fight and then put on Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark and just get off on some Nazis getting punched in the fucking face porn, you know? Otherwise, all the rest of the fights are cool. I mean, we've gone through all of them now, and I think they're like a lot of fun. It's a fun card. Have some friends over to your place, order a few pizzas and some Diet Dr. Peppers, sit your asses down in your favorite ass groove of your couch, and buy that pay-per-view. Or steal it. I don't give a shit. I don't work for the UFC. Steal it. I don't give a fuck. Yeah, that'll do it. We've done all the fights. We went through all of them. Real refresher. Please do watch Hilly Rose on Cage Titans on Saturday. Cage Titans 54, I believe it is. And hopefully she wins. We're all pulling for you here, Hill, as always. And yeah, next UFC pay-per-view, you can hear back from me, DK Sizzle, on this wonderful new show we're calling Check My Oil. All right. Have yourselves a wonderful 4th of July weekend.
Hey, what's happening out there, everybody? This is Lawrence Ross, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about my podcast, The Lawrence Ross Show.
Egomaniac.
It's a 2-hour weekly exploration into my mind. I also do sketches, celebrity impersonations.
You're out of order!
And I also do song parodies. Not too shabby for a blind guy.
Not only are you visually impaired, but you are geographically impaired.
New episodes are released every Friday. Check it out on your favorite podcasting platform or listen to it here on Society 13 on Electrocast.
Welcome to Ringside with Ray and Prince. My name is Ray Leonard Jr.
Oh, got this shit? No, that's just my dad.
My name is Prince Daniels Jr.
Daniels again with a big home touchdown.
On this show, we come to humanize
Athletes, entertainers, business executives. We're going to see what makes them tick.
Tuesdays, 10 a.m. Pacific time on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, and wherever you get your podcasts.
We'll see you there. Peace and power.
Electrocast. Electrocast.